Today in America, we are facing a crisis many in America are unaware of. The problem is on your plate. The steak you have for dinner or the turkey sandwich you eat for lunch are both a result of this problem. The main culprit responsible for this crisis is the American meat industry. Every day, millions of animals are routinely abused and neglected on concentrated animal feeding operations or factory farms. Slaughterhouse and processing plant workers are forced to work in filthy, dangerous, and traumatic environments. And every day, the air is polluted and aquatic ecosystems are damaged by this industry. Never before in history have agricultural businesses been so massive, and never before have such few companies controlled the meat industry, and in turn, the entire American food system. The industrial or factory farm model was first introduced a century ago in the 1920s, when it was discovered that vitamin A and D increased animal growth when incorporated into feed. Farmers no longer needed to give livestock access to the outdoors or sunlight to grow. This allowed massive amounts of animals to be raised indoors all year round. At the time, the largest problem with this system was the amount of disease in livestock. Factory farms were, and continue to be, breeding grounds for disease and bacteria because of the massive quantities of animals living so closely together. In the 1940s, with advancements made in antibiotics, the factory farm system grew once again, when farmers realized that by incorporating antibiotics into animal feed, they could combat illnesses and increase profits. Today, 99% of all meat comes from a factory farm. The main reason factory farming became so prominent was because of poor policy decision-making. The two largest costs of livestock production, feed and waste management, have been artificially reduced by government policies. Feed is unbelievably cheap because of government subsidies, many times cheaper than the cost of production. As a result, factory farms promote the overproduction of corn and soybeans to cheaply feed their livestock. Government, both at the national and state level, allowed for poor management of the negative environmental effects of factory farming, namely manure. Bad management and poor standards have become the norm. Meat companies vigorously lobbied Congress for less strict environmental regulations, and eventually they got them. As farms grew and the number of livestock increased by millions, safety precautions were overlooked to increase profits. As line speed increased, worker injury rates increased as well, and health inspections got sloppy. Workers can now process thousands of animals in an hour. It is hard to believe that every animal is properly and humanely handled when they are stunned, stuck, and bled before the evisceration process begins. Because of the speed needed to process massive amounts of animals in such a short amount of time, workers are forced to carry on their tasks even if it means skinning, dismembering, or boiling animals alive. In the 1970s, the top 5 beef packers controlled about 25% of the market. Today, the top 4 beef packing companies, Tyson, Swift, Cargill, and National Beef, control more than 80% of the market. Meat production has evolved into one of the most profitable businesses in the world. Cargill, a meat processor, lands in the top 30 most profitable businesses in the world. In 2011, Cargill's annual revenue was $119.5 billion. And while operations such as Cargill are bringing in millions of dollars each year, small farms are struggling to survive, and rural communities are suffering. The problem the American meat industry presents is a multifaceted one, with issues regarding human and animal rights, health, and environmental destruction.